Okay. Um, it's a big ass mic. Is it blocking? Is the mic blocking the neck piece? A little bit. Hey, hit it. How about this? This is a little bit better. What's up, y'all? This the Emperor King Bishop Solomon Selassie, and all right, and just so I'm a multidisciplinary artist, interdisciplinary artist, musician, tailor, visual artist, photographer, videographer. I basically use all art forms. I'm pretty talented in all art forms, and I do business as an art form as well. Business is an art form. Doing things to help other artists in ways that they might not be able to, you know, be helped or help themselves and stuff like that. But for me, creative expression and all of these things are a manifestation of the Most High. It's a manifestation of the divine energy from the ancestors, our bloodlines, our past soul lineages, our soul history, all of the things that make us as melanated people as special and great as we are, and as human beings, because there are some, what that's all. I'm about to go in. Niggas about to go all the way in. Because there's some pale skinned people out here that got some soul. But yeah, no, it's a representation of the divine energy, the divine science, the spiritual science. You know, um, you know, and art saved my life, really. All transparency. As a human being, I've dealt with depression, anxiety, um, you know, being anxious, and dealing with masked depression. Um, Being a man, a melanated, quote unquote, black man in the society with all of the things that are tied to it. Art was always a way for me to transcend those earth earthly norms, right? And those expectations. For us just to be human and just to be spiritual beings, a spirit having a human experience. And art is a medium, right, for spirit to come through and communicate with us. Me also being a psychic medium and a spiritualist and someone that is very in tune with my spiritual gifts, the art is an extension of that, you know. And the art is also an extension of the larger work that we have to do as community members, right? And um, people that are building a, a healthy community and a healthy tribe, healthy families and stuff like that, right? Because no matter what you're doing, there has to be a system around it. So the system that I've been creating around the art forms that I do is very profound because it's community building, right? Right now, we are in my shop, Studio B, part of my business owner situation. Me and my partner Wahid, we came together to open up Studio B for it to be a home for the Renaissance, a home for the new Renaissance, new cultural Renaissance. You know, our greats, our great ancestors that were part of the Harlem Renaissance and things like that. Uh, hey, brother, how you doing?
I was next door, just thought I'd see if you were here.
I'm definitely here, man. See, and that is an example of what we're talking about. People just walk in at different times. That's a brother that talks about some civics and some art when it comes to nationality. Some art that comes to owning your rights, asserting your rights. In this country where through paperwork they have made us onto paperwork slaves, slaves to the dollar, slaves to society, slaves to social media, slaves to all of these things, and not really getting our true essence of human beings and melanated kings and queens, empresses and emperors, and gods and goddesses, gods and earths, right? So it's a thing, right? So this here Studio B, like I was saying, our ancestors with the Harlem Renaissance, uh, their Renaissance, even though it was beautiful art that came out of it, there was a lot that went into the direction of whiteness and acceptance by white people, acceptance by European, acceptance by the colonialists, right? Acceptance by those that aren't ourselves. The renaissance that's going on now is a cultural renaissance bringing us back to our own ancestry, traditional indigenous practices, African practices, African spirituality, indigenous spirituality, things that come from the soul and the heart. So all of these things go into me as an artist and me as a person. You know, I'm a producer, right? I have 3 albums out, 2 EPs. A lot of music, but we also do. I do a completely different thing live than I've done recorded, right? Channeling the energy in the space and in the rooms that we perform in. You know, I've done sound baths where people have been able to deal with grief that they've dealt with. They might have had a family member pass away or a friend pass away, and through my sound bath, through my art, through my expression, through my channeling of divine energy, their ancestor might have been able to come through and tell them it's okay that they're gone now. It's okay, or been able to forgive them for something that they might have not forgiven themselves from, right? This is a deep, 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 deep work. There might be times where I don't know what I'm feeling, right? I might be a little bit overwhelmed, but through the art when I'm performing, you know, it gets deep. We did the show last night, and when I know it's good, I can't stop moving while I'm playing. I can't stop dancing when I'm playing. I'm just moving, and that goes into my spiritual medium work, right? Because if anybody is familiar with how psychic mediums work sometimes on levels of that, you know, the body can the body can get taken over by the spirit, man, and that's what it looks like when people get the spirit in church, right? People in church catching the spirit, catching the Holy Ghost. But what that really is divine energy, divine spirit channeling. In Ifa they call it, in different places they call it possession, and it's not an inherently negative possession, But yeah, I feel like I'm rambling. I'm just talking about so many things, but hmm, what else? Oh, hmm. I guess another thing I say is that I'm extremely thankful for this process, right? Like I said, art saved my life, and being an artist has allowed me to practice a certain type of openness to where outside of art, right? Even though I consider living art itself, just life, right, is art itself. But outside of the practice of art, I've been able to be open to fully experience what life has to offer and to take every bit of growth that was every bit of growth that was in the moment to take, right? They're you know used up all the gas in the tank to grow as much as possible. um yeah, 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 yeah. What else? I don't know, man. Hmm. Okay, the intersectionality of art and the life of art, and you said how I've grown from the beginning. Hmm. You know what? I could probably answer that in two ways. Because one way is that art was the medium for me to express and to experience just life in general, right? Some people play football, you know, some people play sports, some people do all of those things. So me being in music and in art for so long, that was my social, those were my social environments. So it also, those being my environments, add a level of vulnerability for me personally. And that's another thing, right? Because I used to think when I was younger that everybody thought like me. I thought that all artists were as deep as me. I thought all artists were, excuse me, all artists were just as interested in spirituality, growth as me. But nah, some people are just good at shit. Some people are just good at, you know, some people are great musicians. They could play all the scales in the world. They could play all of the things in the world, but have absolutely no emotional intelligence. And that's one of my favorite aspects about myself that I've been able to grow through vulnerability, right? Um, with all transparency, my mother passed away when I was 11. She transitioned to the ancestral realm. And the way I responded to that was an involuntary repression of thoughts and feelings and memories. And I basically just started to live my life like my mom was never here in the first place, like she never was in my life. That was a natural response for my 11-year-old self. But that started to ingrain a coldness into me, an emotional coldness, where I thought that I could give love, but I didn't know how to receive love. I cut off my receptors to love. And my self worth became attached to my production, right? Which is a double negative because us as black men in America, our worth is already attributed to how much money you got, what you doing, how many cars you got, mortgages, all of these physical things that are attached to this Western way of living. So I basically put those things on myself. So now I'm dealing with society standards and I'm dealing with my own internal standards, trying to get some more money, trying to produce more, trying to do this, trying to do that, just so that I could feel like I was worthy of just receiving love, right? Worthy of receiving respect, worthy of receiving things that all humans have as a birthright, right? Our birthright is just to live, right? And to give love to ourselves. Love is our birthright through self love. I didn't give myself the self love that I needed. I didn't give myself that self love. My self love was given to myself of my own production, right? So the art was a way for me to continuously express myself and learn myself through creation and the, for lack of better terms, openness of what that art brings into social experiences and social interactions, right? You know, um, art isn't concrete. Art isn't money. Art isn't numbers. They can include those things, but when you have something that is so boundless, you can learn so much about yourself and other people through it. So I definitely thought that people thought like me, felt like me, but then I realized like, nah, these people not like me. And the art and the way that I express my art naturally was something that started to take over my whole life when it came to just experiencing fully, living fully, expressing myself fully, being having conviction when I speak, even when what I was speaking on wasn't as elevated as it is now, right? You know, um, with all transparency again, even when it comes to areas of love and love lives and stuff like that. My emotional coldness that came from my mother's transition negatively affected some of my earlier relationships where I said, I literally told a woman that I shouldn't have to tell you that I love you. You should just be able to tell and know it by the way I treat you. And that was extremely cold and insensitive to tell a person, but my emotional intelligence wasn't there yet to understand that the same reassurance that they might be looking for, I needed my damn self. I needed that same reassurance. So through the art and seeing my reflection in the art and seeing how my reflection was reflected back to me through others' reception of my art and other people's, appreciation of my art, was it allowed me to see my reflection in other people, period. Because the art was the medium for them to reflect just each other. My art is a medium to reflect the same energy that other people have. And that's another level of things, right? Because the art that I create, the music that I create is very different. It's not mainstream, you know. It's improvisational. It can be improvisational, very free, very radical, not afraid of the darkness. I'm a shadow worker, very very comfortable with the natural negativity and the natural darkness of life, the natural other side of polarity, right? Because there's two types of negativity. Natural negativity that comes with polarity, and then you got negativity that comes with blood magic, blood ritual, dark demonic things that come with things. But when it comes to being fully present as a full human being in all sides of polarity, sometimes there's dark energy. Sometimes it's not going to sound good. Sometimes it's not going to feel good. Sometimes it's going to be a little chaotic, right? And when people experience the art, um, it's a reflection of themselves that they probably haven't been able to see, And I'm very thankful to be able to reflect some of those things that most people don't even get into a lot of times. And that's the thing that happens with me through conversation. Conversation is art, right? To me, my whole life is dedicated to the Most High, our divine ancestors, and the art that creates. Art as life, art as revolution, art as reflection, art as love, art as forgiveness, art as all of these things. There are arts of these things, right? The study and the practice. So someone said last night at the gig we had that it felt like they were underwater in a thunderstorm dancing with the ancestors all at the same time. These are things that don't happen unless you're completely vulnerable. And this my art practice has made me completely vulnerable. And it set me off on a path of self realization and self learning to where I offer a level of emotional intelligence and safety, emotional safety to people in my life that some have never had before in their life. They don't get from their parents. I've known people whose parents didn't want them, parents who had different things, and I'm honored to be a person that has offered these safe spaces for people to just exist, live, express themselves, and be held accountable. Because that's another side of things, right? Because there's a difference between someone just nagging at you and stuff like that. But when somebody truly loves you unconditionally and loves themselves, right? I love myself so much that I can't be around you and not be completely open and honest about what my honest eye is seeing, right? We have to hold each other accountable. And that's the other side of polarity. That's the other side of unconditional love. Love hurts sometimes. The truth hurts sometimes. But when we love ourselves fully and love each other fully, we can accept those more uncomfortable conversations, um, things that we need to do to grow and stuff like that. So, yeah, the as I grow in my art forms, I grow as a human being. I grow as a man. I grow as a lover. I grow as a friend, you know, and I grow as a lover to myself as well, you know. Um, yeah, I think that's okay. That might be a thing. That might be what it is. Mm-hmm. It's not easy to do what we do. there's a choice that's made. Mm. Stand up and fade. A new day, a new way. And every day I get up and thank the one that made a way. It's the Most High, it's the Most High, it's the Most High, the Most High. We thank the Most High, we thank the Most High. It's the Most High, it's the Most High.